Live. Another night of NFL free agency, another night of NFL offseason. Here to talk some of the latest signings today, as well as some other things going around in the NFL, like Cam Newton being released by the Panthers, Tom Brady's first press conference with the Tampa Bay Bucks, Trent Williams and the potential trade destinations for him. So a lot to discuss here today, live on the Bottom Line View. Before I do get started, guys, make sure that you do Gronk spike the like button. And of course, if you are new, subscribe to the Bottom Line View if you enjoy live NFL free agency talk, NFL discussion, analysis, and all of that fun stuff. Also, comment your opinion or your questions below. What questions do you have for me? What's your opinion on certain teams, certain signings, whatever you want to state or ask in the comment section. Let me know. All right, so back here live, and some big signings did happen today. Quite a few on the offensive side of the ball. This was a big offense day out there in the NFL. Breshad Perriman was signed by the New York Jets. Devin Funchess was signed by the Green Bay Packers. And we had Robbie Anderson signed by the Carolina Panthers. Those are 3 receivers, but also Phillip Dorsett, who went to Seattle. So 4 receivers in total. And then we had, of course, Tyler Eifert, the big tight end from the Bengals, signing with the Jags. And the other move that I do want to talk about is Peyton Barber signing with the Redskins. So I'm going to go over all of those signings at some point within this video, as well as answering your questions and just having a good time, having a fun time. We're also going to go over the Cam Newton situation, Trent Williams, Tom Brady, and anything else you guys want to ask or comment on. So let's get started by taking a look at the chat and seeing what everybody is talking about in there. Make sure you guys are active in the chat. Let me know how you feel tonight. Mr. Singh is in the chat. Hazelnut says free agency frenzy with a cool face. David says, hey, Mitch. What's up, David? Turtle is in the chat. And Turtle doesn't want to buy Madden. Even though he's stuck inside, he doesn't want to buy Madden. He doesn't want to join the potential league. Busboy says play Madden. See, Busboy wants me to play. Turtle doesn't want to play, though. He says, we're not doing Madden today. Chiefs Rule says, Mitch, why would Cam go to New England if they're trying out Hoyer for a starting position? Yeah, well, let's get into that a little bit. So the Patriots did sign Brian Hoyer yesterday, I believe, or 2 days ago. Either way, they signed Brian Hoyer, and a little disappointed. Obviously, I like Brian Hoyer a lot. Like, as a backup, I like him as a dude. I like him as a Patriot, whatever. But if he's actually, this is what the report said, that he was actually going to legitimately be in the quarterback conversation, quarterback competition, there's no possible way you're going to go into your season as Brian Hoyer as your number 1 starter. And if you do have him as your backup, I don't even really feel like that's a great backup. That would be a lower tier backup. Like, if Hoyer's your backup when you have Tom Brady, that's fine. But when you have like Stidham, who's expected to be your quarterback, and Brian Hoyer is going to be the guy pushing Stidham, really, how much competition is he going to offer Stidham? Now, what Hoyer can offer, I think, is his expertise, his experience, his knowledge of the offense and Josh McDaniels. And obviously, he'll be able to help Stidham, or a young quarterback, with film study and all that sort of stuff, almost as an extension of a coach. And I think that's excellent to have on your team, especially if you have a young quarterback. But as a guy that's going to challenge for your number 1, I don't like it. I think, you bring in Hoyer there to be your number 3, but the other guy that they have on the roster is Cody Kessler. Cody Kessler is nowhere near a starting caliber quarterback. At the time that the Jags had Blake Bortles, Cody Kessler was the only worst quarterback the Jags could find to make it look good that they had Blake Bortles as their starter. That's how I felt at the time, and that's how I feel today. So going forward, I just feel like the Patriots, if they want to have a legitimate competition at the quarterback position, it just seems like they're going with Stidham. But if they legitimately want to have a competition, they need to have a better backup than Brian Hoyer. Put Brian Hoyer on your roster as your 3, but not your 2, not your legitimate backup. That's how I feel. Donnie says, hey, Chad, go Miami. Kyle Davis says, hi, Mitch. How are you doing? I'm doing pretty good, Classes online for school, just finishing that up and continuing to get on YouTube and make some videos and hanging out now in Vancouver for, I guess, like the past week. So it's been pretty good. Michael says, what's up, Mitch? What's up, Michael? Harrison says, Brian Homer. Don't know what he's talking about. Keon Thomas says, what Pats are tanking? No, I don't think they're tanking. I don't know. I don't know. It just seems like they're all in on Stidham. But I feel like if you're also all in on Stidham, you also want to have a quarterback that can legitimately win you games if you're a backup. I don't think Brian Hoyer can go in as a backup and legitimately win games for this team. I don't know. That's just the way I feel. Any numbers on the Eifert signing? I haven't seen any yet, but I do think there was a recent tweet regarding the Eifert signing, so maybe I'll check before I do talk about it. Sonny says, why isn't the Bills trying to sign Devontae Freeman? I don't know. Nobody is. I haven't heard a single rumor regarding Devontae Freeman. I think because he's kind of fallen off in recent seasons, and I just think he's had some injury issues. These type of players that are kind of veterans that you know are going to be on an NFL roster, like Devontae Freeman's going to find a home. He's going to find a roster. But these guys aren't necessarily going to take up a lot of cap space. So you're looking at those players more in terms of closer to training camp, signing these guys, especially the running back position where you don't really need to learn the playbook much. I mean, how much can you really learn other than run left, run right, run middle, and, some of the pass protections? Other than that, like Freeman, it's not a very complicated position to play. That's why rookie running backs are always so effective, because they don't really have to learn much as compared to tight ends who have to learn a lot, or wide receivers, right? So Freeman is a guy that I think will be signed closer to training camp. I wouldn't be shocked if he was signed sooner, but I think a team is going to go through the draft first and see if they can get a younger running back in there. And if they can't, then they'll go to Devontae Freeman, sign him to like a 1 year, $2 million, whatever it may be, type of contract, and have him compete. But I do think that the Bills will be one of the players in the conversation for Freeman. I do think a team like the Lions will also be in that conversation. But there are certainly teams out there that could use a backup running back. Like we saw that the Giants went after Dion Lewis. I think that has more to do with, and I talked about this on the last live broadcast, but I think this has more to do with the fact that, okay, Joe Judge is a New England guy. They have a lot of New England guys in their building, and Dion Lewis is somebody that not only would help them from a player on field standpoint, but is also a guy that they know. So that signing makes more sense. I don't know if there's a connection out there for Freeman other than Kyle Shanahan, which Kyle Shanahan has a ton of guys at running back. So he's not really looking to bring in Devontae Freeman at the moment. Chiefs Rule says, Mitch, why would Cam go to New England if they're trying out Hoyer? I already said that. But just to talk about Cam's interesting because I really, like I said on the last broadcast, like I really felt like teams are going to target him once he's released. Now he's released. Now he's had his physical, or at least has been looked at by a doctor, according to NFL reports. So now I feel like within the next few days, we should hear about Cam Newton being signed somewhere, because I do feel like that's a piece, or that's a player that would be signed before any rookies get drafted or the whole draft process, because you want to know what you have at the quarterback position before going into the draft. So I did see that Vegas had Miami as the favorite to sign him. I saw other teams up there were like the Chargers and the Jags, I think, were second, and the third was the Chargers. I think New England was in there, and also Denver, I think, was in there as well. Those were the teams that I saw that were, like, according to Vegas, the teams that could potentially sign Cam Newton. In terms of the team that I think would best fit Cam Newton, I think the two teams that would be great for him are obviously New England, but this is a little biased because I'm a New England fan, but I'm also a Cam fan. And I've said many times he's one of my favorite players in the league. So if he were to sign with my favorite team, that would at least help the loss of Tom Brady leaving my team. So that would be awesome. But I also feel like Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels would be able to support him with an offense that would work with his skill set. And he would have a great defense. And I think he'd be able to play that same sort of role with the Panthers, where, early in his days, he didn't really have a lot around him offensively. So it was kind of like Cam making a few plays here and there, and then defensively, them making some stops and winning defensive ball games. So I think New England would be one place, obviously. But I think the place that really fits him the best would probably be the Chargers, because obviously they went out and all of their moves kind of point towards, okay, we're going to go after it like within these next couple of seasons. So for them to continuously say that they are going to draft a quarterback or just go with Tyrod Taylor, to me, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like, if I was the GM of the team, if I was the owner, the head coach, whatever, based on the roster they have right now, it would make more sense to take a chance on Cam Newton. And then if Cam doesn't work out, then you have Tyrod as your backup plan. That makes more sense to me than drafting a quarterback right now, and then if that guy isn't quite ready, going with the bridge quarterback of Tyrod Taylor. Because it's far more likely, in my opinion, at this point, that Cam can actually play at a decent enough level, like let's say a top 15 level, compared to a rookie quarterback playing at that level. That doesn't happen very often, especially when the Chargers are drafting. They're not drafting first, they're not drafting second, they're drafting within the top 10, but not that high, right? So they would have to trade up to get a truly elite guy in the draft. And I think Cam would be suitable to their roster, right? They have a ready defense. They have Keenan Allen. They have Mike Williams, who's only going to get better. They just franchised Hunter Henry, so they might not have him next year. They have Austin Eckler, who they re-signed, but they brought in Russell Okung. They signed Brian Bulaga at tackle. Those are two solid veteran tackles who are 30-plus years old. It doesn't really make sense to draft a quarterback and then have your tackles be 35 in like 2 years. I know Balaga's only like 31, but Okung's like 33, 34. Okung got traded. Trey Turner, they brought in at guard. But regardless, if they use that first-round pick on a tackle and they sign Brian Bulaga, then you have a really good offensive line with a guard that played with Cam as well. And you basically have a roster, like you signed Chris Harris, you signed Linval Joseph. Like, these guys are 30-plus years old. These guys are wanting to win right now, right? So what sense does it make to just go with Tyrod Taylor or go with a rookie? I don't know. I would rather take the chance on Cam, especially now that his price is likely dropped. It's probably around $10 to $15 million for 1 year, and that's really cheap for a potentially really good quarterback. Even with the injury concerns, I'd be willing to do that for a team with enough cap space. Other teams that I think would be interesting, and I've already talked about this many times, but I feel like even the Bears, like Nick Foles, they traded for him, and I understand that cap space could become an issue, but I don't understand why you would trade a fourth for Nick Foles when I feel like Cam Newton would be a much better option. I don't know, and I think he would also fit the offense, and I think he gives you a dynamic playmaker that just Nick Foles just isn't. I don't know. I haven't seen Nick Foles succeed other than like in short stretches or with the Eagles. I've never seen him exceed outside of the Philadelphia system. So we'll have to see if Nick Foles works out there, but I don't know. And I understand that they want to continue with Mitch Trubisky experiment, and they don't really want to truly push him. And I feel like Cam would just take over the team immediately once the receivers and the defense saw Cam actually throw the ball compared to Mitch Trubisky. They would be like, oh, well, this guy should be the starter, compared to, Trubisky and Foles, where it's more like, okay, Trubisky's more athletically gifted. We could see them continue to go with Trubisky, but Nick Foles is kind of the smarter guy in there. So I feel like that's kind of a political move on the Bears' part to only bring in Nick Foles instead of somebody with more potential. Other teams, I mean, the Jags have been thrown out there, but it does really appear that they're going to go with Minshew, and I don't know if they even have enough cap to do that. I know that they've kind of restructured, signed some guys. They signed somebody today, Rashawn Melvin at cornerback, so it wasn't a lot of money, but just throwing that out there. Who else would be interesting? Miami, bringing up Miami. I mean, they're favorite to sign him. That would be really interesting because I feel like if Cam was actually healthy this year, the Dolphins would be really interesting because their defense already, from all the signings they've made, I mean, their secondary is going to be really good. They have two elite corners, and they brought in Van Noy and Shaq Lawson and a few other guys on defense. I mean, their defense could be really good with Brian Flores coaching it. And then offensively, they have Devontae Parker and Gesicki, who they like at tight end, but they don't have a ton, and they've upgraded their offensive line. But I don't know. I feel like they would at least compete for like second in the division if they had a quarterback right now who could play. And then even if you do sign Cam with all the cap space you have, say you sign Cam to 1 year, 15 to 20 million, even if you sign 20 million, let's say, you still have what, $30 million, and you could draft Tua, who's been hurt. So you don't really want Tua to start day one. And I know that you have Fitzpatrick, but it's not like Fitzpatrick, I don't think, would really care, right? You could have Fitzpatrick and him and Newton battle it out. And let's say Newton's not ready and Tua's not ready. Well, Fitz can just play because he played last year. The Dolphins are in a situation where they have so much flexibility because, one, they're not really expected to win right now. And two, they have the options already on their roster and the draft pick capital that they could do whatever the heck they wanted. So for Vegas to list them as number one, it does make a lot of sense because they're the ones that are a lot more open to doing things because of the cap they have and because of the players on the roster they already have and the assets they already have. So the Dolphins make a lot of sense, but I do believe if the Chargers really want to do something right now and actually compete within their division, I think like they would be the team that I would really look out for. But I don't know if they're going to do anything. And it just doesn't seem like New England's going to want to do anything. So going to have to deal with it, I guess. What else we have here? But no, I don't think New England's tanking, though. Some people are throwing that out. I don't think they're tanking. They still have way too talented of a defense and offensive line. I don't think Belichick would want to not sign Tom Brady and then try to lose every game because it would just make him look really bad. Like it just does competitively, it doesn't make sense. And it would make their team, I think the fans in New England, the way that they are, they would instantly turn on Belichick like very quickly because they like all the stories coming out of him not wanting to sign Brady and then the potential of them trying to lose out. I feel like that would easily turn that fan base who's been so spoiled over the years. And they would think that all the success was because of Brady and not signing him would be ludicrous. Even though I don't think that's true, I think that would be the public reception of it. And I don't think that's the way that they want to do business. Singh says, Mitch, my prediction. Oh, sir, what did he say? Chat just updated. Damn. My prediction is Trent Williams gets traded to the Browns. The Browns did sign Conklin. I think that's like the one really big missing piece that they could use. I mean, if they were able to get Trent Williams, that team would be really, really good. And I feel like Baker Mayfield would be kind of out of excuses at that point. I do think that the Bucs would be interesting for Williams as well because I think they still have cap space and obviously they have Brady, so they're in win now mode. Other teams that I think would be interesting, who else? Just off the top of my head, the Jets. Even though like the Jets have been really, really quiet in terms of free agency moves. They made one today, but it was almost like they've been very responsive when I thought that they would be more active and aggressive. And they've been a little bit reactionary in free agency as opposed to getting after it. So I don't know if they're going to make that move, but the Jets would make sense from a need perspective. And the Dolphins obviously have enough cap space to do it, and they have enough assets to trade. Other teams, I don't really know. I don't think Seattle would be into it because they already have Dwayne Brown. I don't think he's going to move to right tackle. So the Rams don't have any cap space. The Cardinals, maybe. They already traded for DeAndre Hopkins, but they still have a lot of cap, and they still have, like, that's one of their missing pieces. If they were able to get like a stud lineman for Kyler Murray at tackle, that would really catapult them, I think, a little bit to the next level. Like their offense is already going to be really good on paper, but if they were able to get that protection for Kyler Murray and the amount that they pass the ball, that would make a lot of sense to me. NFC North, the Bears need tackles in my opinion, or at least one. but they don't really have the space, I don't think, to make a move for Trent Williams. Not the Packers, not the Vikings. I don't think they have enough money. AFC wise, Chargers have kind of already made their moves, but they still have that opening at left tackle. And Broncos don't seem to be moving on from their tackles yet. AFC North, the Bengals. The Bengals would be interesting, I guess, but I don't know. I don't really know. There's only like a few teams I feel like that have the space, have the capital, and also have the need to go after a player that is a little bit older. He's really good, but he's a little bit older, and we haven't seen him play like an entire season. So, yeah, I don't know. It's Trent Williams, an interesting conversation. But the Browns could be in that conversation. Yuri says, where do you think Suh will sign? That's a good question. I was watching some Bucs games today, and what I saw from Suh is still a really good player. So I would be interested to see if the Bucs are still intrigued in signing him. Suh did play there last year and was pretty good, as I brought up, but also he said that he wanted to still play there earlier this offseason. So maybe this is a move that, because Suh hasn't usually been a guy to take less money. Suh's been the exact opposite. He's basically played as a hired gun, essentially. Wherever he's gone, he's taken the most money to play there. So I feel like Suh is just going to go that route again. But seeing how much he enjoyed playing for the Bucs, I wouldn't be surprised if he re-signed with Tampa Bay. But I think there's a lot of teams that would sign him. I just don't think it's for as much money as he probably wants because of his age and because he's not really like one of the top players at his position anymore. He's certainly still a good player, but he's not like an elite player at his position. Looking at some of the teams that I feel like maybe could sign him, looking at the teams right now, Bengals have made their moves there. Browns kind of have just made a couple of recent acquisitions at that position. Ravens obviously have made moves there. Those are teams that I felt like maybe could have used him earlier this offseason. Colts could still be in play because of the amount of money they have, and they have Phillip Rivers, so it makes sense. The Titans maybe, because they lost Casey and they traded him, so signing Suh for cheaper would maybe get a relatively close player in talent, but not at the same price. The Raiders, I feel like Suh's always meant to play for the Raiders with the style of play that he's always played at, but I don't know if that would be a spot for him. The Seahawks make sense to me a little bit. Who else? Maybe the Lions, but I don't know if he's interested in a reunion with them. And I think the Cowboys, would be interested in Suh, but I just don't know how much. That's definitely a price thing. If the Cowboys can afford him, I think they would be intrigued because, they already signed McCoy. Why not McCoy and Suh, the number 1 and number 2 of their draft class? That would be pretty fun. Okay. What else in the chat? Let's check it out. I think I just crossed the window off. I got to get back to the window. I'll get to these signings shortly, but I'm enjoying the chat so far. So let's just keep that up. Busboy says, everyone listen, when the aliens come to Earth, the whole reason we are scared is because we feel like they're going to do what we did to other animals to us, and we will be used for farming and food. Okay. I don't know if we're scared of aliens because of that, but that's an interesting theory. The Cowboys haven't signed Poe yet, have they? I know that they were interested, but I don't think they've officially signed him yet. Adam says, Mitch, what's good? What's up, Adam? Ultra says, I was considering Dallas a loser, but I think that they were all that bad in free agency. Who's all of them? Steve says best receiver in the draft. Good question. And I'll be making my receiver rankings probably within the next couple of weeks. So you'll have to tune into that video when I make it. Yuri says, do you think Carson Wentz is overrated? No, I think if anything, Carson Wentz is underrated. Deshaun says, where do you think Cam is going? I kind of just answered that. Keon says, Brady is coming back to Tampa Bay. He's not coming back to New England. Singh says, Cam Newton deserves a Super Bowl, ? He had his opportunity, and he just ran into one of the greatest defenses of all time, so can't say that he deserves it, but he certainly brought a team there at 15-1 that I never thought would be that good. Because you look back at that team and the players that played on that team, their defense was really talented for the most part, but I mean, their offense, like, can you even name one of their receivers that was on that team? Their best receiver on that team was Ted Ginn and Philly Brown. So they didn't really have much at receiver, which I think hurt them a lot in that game versus that secondary. But, I mean, they had Greg Olsen and Jonathan Stewart. Like, they didn't even have, like, a McCaffrey back then. So Cam pretty much carried that entire offense that year. So he was amazing in that season, going back and looking at that and looking at the stats, looking at the names that he played with. But I can't say that he deserves a Super Bowl. Golden says Falcons could use Clay Matthews. Get him for cheap. I don't know if he fits that defense. I don't know where he would play. I guess he would play edge rusher for that defense, but it would be in a very limited role. I feel like he would just be third down. And as of late, he's played more linebacker than he has actually edge rusher. So maybe, I don't know. Yuri says, do you think the Patriots will keep Hightower? And I think the answer is yes. Steve says, who is the best wide receiver coming out of the draft? He's asked me that already. Hazelnut says, Mitch, what do you think happens with Andy Dalton? Good question. Maybe the Jags. I could see the Jags going after him for the same reason they signed Tyler Eifert. They have Jay Gruden, so it kind of makes sense. He didn't go to the Bears, where I thought he could go. I thought it was between him and Foles, and they chose Foles. I think New England should be interested, but they just brought in Brian Hoyer, so I don't really know if they are. But I do think he'll end up somewhere. If not, I mean, the Bengals have one of the best quarterback depth charts going into next year. If they keep Dalton, they have Burrow and they have Finley. That's not a bad 1, 2, 3. They've all started games and played at least an okay level. So Ultra says top 5 free agency losers: Texans, Rams, Patriots, Packers, Jets. Texans number 1. Sonny says, do you think Josh McDaniels is waiting to take over Belichick's job? That's why he hasn't accepted a head coaching job. I think part of the reason he hasn't accepted it was, 1, Tom Brady was still there. 2, he hasn't found the perfect match. And 3, Rob Kraft is paying him right now like he's a head coach. Those are 3 reasons. We never actually hear how much head coaches are making unless your name's John Gruden. So I feel like Josh McDaniels is making head coach money, but he's just the offensive coordinator. Because from what I know, Bill Belichick doesn't really handle anything offensively with the team for the most part. I mean, he might give his odd, like, 1 and 2 things that he says, but I think for the most part, it's been Josh McDaniels and Tom Brady and that collaboration. And I think it's going to be Josh McDaniels, and maybe Belichick will a little bit more lean on the offense this year because he has a lot of veterans there defensively with Devin McCourty, and he has Jason McCourty and Hightower and all those guys. So he can not really worry about that side of the ball as much in terms of the game planning. Maybe he'll lean into the offensive side of the ball with McDaniels this year because he'll have probably a second-year quarterback at the helm. But I think those are the reasons why McDaniels hasn't been a head coach yet. Singh says, if the Chargers trade for a top 10 quarterback, will they go to the Super Bowl? Don't know if I can say that, but I do think that they could be a playoff team. And I think the only top 10 quarterback that they could potentially get is Cam. If he's truly 100% healthy and playing up to his potential, he's a top 10 quarterback. But that's like ifs. Like there's like 3 ifs there. If they trade for him, if he's healthy, and if he's playing well, right? So other than that, there's no other quarterback that I see them trading for that could take them to the Super Bowl. Joseph says, Mitch, what's your take on the Skins having more needs at cornerback and could pass on Young for Okuda? I'm thinking they trade the number 2 and Young falls to the Lions. Interesting. I will say this, though. I don't know if this is if Ron Rivera has any sort of decision in this. He's always been a front 7 guy as opposed to a defensive back guy. So maybe the need is there, but in terms of building that type of roster, I do feel like that's always been the way that Rivera has built his teams. So it wouldn't line up with his past decisions if he has an impact here. But, I mean, I think both players are really good. I do think Young is better. And I think that would be perfect for the Lions regardless. I think the Lions are suiting it really in a good spot because they can get either player that I think will really help their team at corner or pass rusher. They need both players. Hazelnut says, totally agree. Harrison says, what do you think the Pats do with their first round pick? I don't think they're going to go receiver because everyone thinks they're going to go receiver. So therefore that's not going to happen. I think they're going to go defense, and I think it's going to be like edge rusher, or I think it's going to be a defensive lineman. I think it's going to be an edge rusher, maybe like a secondary player, but I mean, their secondary is stacked. They could go receiver for all I know. Like their main needs are receiver, but I just don't see them doing that. It depends what happens with the Joe Thuney situation, because they could also go offensive line if they can't get a long-term contract for him before the season. Then they might be forced to do that. But I want to see them draft a tight end. There's no one that really is going to be in the first round for them. So I think it's between receiver and edge rusher. And honestly, I'd be cool with either. I don't think they need to look at corner. They might need to look at safety given the age of their players at the position in McCourty and Chung. So safety could be in the conversation. Linebacker, to me, isn't a position that you really want to draft in the first round unless it's a stud in the top 10. That's just my opinion. But yeah, I think it's going to be defensive end, edge rusher, or it's going to be receiver or maybe safety. Those would probably be the 3. And then if Joe Thuney is somehow not involved for their long-term plans, then maybe guard or tackle if they want to move Wynn to guard. Harrison said, I just said that. Jameis Winston is a disaster, says Kevin. Top 5 free agency winners. Ultra says Ravens, Bucks, Cardinals, Falcons, Broncos. I don't know if I would put the Ravens first. They've made some good moves, but I don't know if they're number 1. Airflow says, what team should sign Jameis? It's the Steelers. The Steelers. Singh says, what teams were great in free agency this year? It's not really finished, so I don't want to answer that question yet. But there's still time left for teams to make an impact with some lower tier signings, and a lot of the times those lower tier signings are the signings that really make the difference in teams. So I want to give it like at least another week, and then I'll end up doing like free agency winners, losers, stuff like that. Hazelnut says he's a UMass grad. Okay, what it was. Maverick says, hey, what's up, Maverick? Kev says, is Phillip Dorsett good? Okay, we should probably get into those signings. And Deshaun says, can Brady make the Bucks a Super Bowl team next year? I think he could definitely make them a playoff team, but I don't know about a Super Bowl team yet. I think I kind of need to see the actual product of the team before I can say that. Do you think Watson will seek a trade? I don't think Watson is the type of player to do that, but I could see him easily leaving the team in free agency. What do you think will happen with Marcus Golden? That's a good one. Personally, I'd like New England to sign him, but I think that he's probably going to get a 1-year contract again somewhere for a prove-it deal, and then go after a long-term contract next year if he performs well. How do I feel about the Vikings? I'm not sure if they're going to be as good as next year. It's kind of the thing that just popped into my head. I think they'll be good, but they haven't really done anything to move the needle for me. Sarah says, Mitch, I love your insights. Thank you, Sarah. D says, what division do you see having 2 teams in the playoffs? This is like an entire video. I could see the NFC South, the NFC West, the AFC North, the AFC West. Those would be the divisions that I could see having 2 teams. Maybe the AFC South as well. Yeah, there's probably like 3 divisions in the AFC. I don't think the AFC East will have 2 teams. I think it will be the Bills right now. And that's probably it. But I do think like one of those teams, Dolphins, Patriots, or Jets, will be around 8 or 9 wins but miss the playoffs. The AFC North, I could see really any of those teams making the playoffs, and that includes the Bengals. I could see the Bengals being a wild card team. I know that's crazy to say, but that, if it all goes right, it could happen. I think the Ravens should be in the playoffs, and I think the Steelers would be my bet to be the other team that makes an impact this year, but those 2 teams make sense, and the Browns will be competitive as well. The AFC South, I mean, I don't think the Texans are going to make it this year, even if Watson's amazing. I don't think they've done enough to their defense, and I don't think, like, this is how I'm thinking right now. This might change before I make my predictions, but they haven't done enough to their defense, and their defense was pretty bad last year, and their offense still has a lot of weaknesses, and they lost their best receiver and their best playmaker. And even if Watson's amazing, I mean, I think they'll be, like, they probably won't be a team that's below, like, 7-9, but I don't think they'll make it. I mean, I think the Colts have a better chance of making it than the Texans. And the Titans should probably be the favorite in that division because they have the best overall roster. And I think they have the best, I don't know if I'd say they have the best coach, but they have a good coach. AFC West, I think the Broncos can make it. The Raiders could make it. The Chargers can make it. And the Chiefs obviously can make it. I think all those teams could make it. I would not be surprised if either the Broncos or the Raiders make it. I would be surprised if the Chargers made it with Tyrod Taylor. But if they get a different quarterback, even a rookie, I'd be intrigued at their possibility of making it. And the Chiefs, I think, will be for sure in it unless Mahomes misses the entire season. NFC East, Dallas, or it's Dallas or the Eagles still to me. I don't believe enough in Haskins. And the Giants, maybe if Daniel Jones makes a step forward and Saquon goes ham, but they still have work to do on defense. NFC North, I could see any of them. I think the Bears will probably be the team that I feel like right now. I feel like I have the least amount of confidence in the Bears to make the playoffs out of all the teams. The Lions, I don't think have done enough in the offseason to make it. And I think the Packers are probably the favorite to win it, and the Vikings are behind them. NFC South, I could see three out of 4 teams making it. I could see the Saints for sure making it. I think if either they win it or they're the wild card team. Tampa, I could definitely see making it now. And Atlanta, I think, is talented in certain aspects that I like, but they also have quite a few holes. But they're a team that I think they're a team that I could see sneaking in, but I don't think have a chance to really win the division. NFC West, the Cardinals could make it. I think that the 49ers should be the favorite, and the Seahawks are right underneath the 49ers. I think the Rams are going to finish last in the division at this point in time. Even with the studs they have on their team, they have a lot of holes. They don't have a lot of depth, and I don't trust Jared Goff enough. So to me, I think those are the teams that I kind of listed that I think have an opportunity right now to make the playoffs. And there's quite a few divisions that I could see having 2 teams. And I would say if I had to lean into any of them and like predict it right now, if 2 teams were going to make the playoffs in any division, I think it's between, for the NFC, I think it's the AFC or the NFC West for 2 teams. And I think the AFC is the AFC North. Those are the 2 divisions that I would probably say if I had to bet, those are the divisions. So there you go. What's next? Nicholas says the Colts are winning the division. Adam says 77 people in the chat and 22 likes. Let's go, people. Yeah, let's go, people. Come on. Okay, before I get into these free agency signings, Gronk spike the like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the Bottom Line View. And if for some reason you're not in the chat, comment your opinion, what you think about your team right now at this moment in time. Tell me if I'm an idiot for not saying that your team has a chance to make the playoffs. Okay. What division do I think is the best? Before I get to the free agency signings, I'll answer that question. So the best division in the league, I think, I think it's the, that's tough. I think right now it's the NFC West, but I think that could change. I could see at the end of the season it being the AFC West, the AFC North, the NFC South, or the NFC West. I think that the worst division is the NFC East. And the second worst division is probably the AFC East. Those are probably the 2 worst divisions. The AFC East and the NFC East, probably the worst. Yeah, you could probably flip a coin on that one for the worst, but the best, I think it's between like 4 different divisions. So let's get into the signings that happened today. Let's start off with let's start off with Robbie Anderson, because that one kind of had an impact on the Jets. So let's do that one. All right. The Carolina Panthers have signed another weapon for Teddy Bridgewater. Robbie Anderson, deep threat of the New York Jets, has signed a $12 million deal with the Carolina Panthers. So Robbie Anderson, he lands in Carolina with his old college coach, Matt Rule. So there was a connection there, and Robbie Anderson made it happen, went to Carolina. Matt Rule made it happen. And they add a big dimension of speed, deep threat capability, and just playmaking to this wide receiver group. I feel like last season, Carolina, their 2 receivers in Curtis Samuel and also in DJ Moore made major strides forward as a number 1, number 2 combination, as one of the sneaky combinations in the NFL who, yeah, the Panthers weren't really good last season, but they were successful offensively for a large portion of that season, even without Cam Newton. And really, even with Kyle Allen or Will Grier, they did have little bits of success, and you could see the potential from their wide receiver group last season. Now you add Robbie Anderson into the depth chart on the field, and I could see this offense really exploding in certain games with the big play capability that they have. Of course, with Christian McCaffrey, who you could argue is the best in the league at his position, especially in the receiving game. And then you give Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel. I think what this also adds to the offense is an ability to be flexible with Moore and Samuel. I think with Robbie Anderson, he will be the primary vertical threat in the offense because that's what he does best. And I would say that he is better in that regard to either receiver they have on their roster right now, including DJ Moore. I feel like DJ Moore, this would allow him a little bit more to become that really good slot or like playmaking receiver underneath. I think the strength of DJ Moore's game is his ability to catch the football and make something happen after the catch. And with him now not really having to do as many of the vertical assignments within the offense and stretching the field, that will be Robbie Anderson's task. I think that enables them to move around Samuel and Moore into better matchups and really better spots on the field to run some of the shorter concepts and shorter routes and get open for Teddy Bridgewater. Obviously, their offense is going to be a lot different this year because they have a different offensive coordinator, a different head coach, a different philosophy. But I do think this was really the intention in this signing, was allowing them to do what Teddy does best, but add that weapon that scares a defense vertically so that we can open it up underneath for Bridgewater to have success with his quick release, his good decision making, and getting the ball in our playmakers' hands, whether that's Samuel, Moore, or McCaffrey. This has more to do with the rest of the offense than it has to do for the Bridgewater to Anderson connection. Although I think that will be interesting to see how it develops. But I've never really seen Teddy Bridgewater as a guy that's been a vertical, stretch the field, like throw it down the field and make a big play sort of quarterback. He doesn't really have a super strong arm. I'm not saying it's a bad arm or a weak arm. It's an average arm, but he's accurate. He's more in precision. He's more in underneath. He's more in getting the ball as a point guard type of quarterback than as a guy that's just going to be the shooting guard, going to be the shooter. You know, there's some quarterbacks that are shooters. There's some that are point guards, if you do a basketball analogy. And I feel like Bridgewater is more of a guy that's just trying to get the ball out quick and operate an offense, as opposed to a quarterback who's trying to make that big play or create that big play on his own. And like, I've never really seen him connect with a downfield receiver before, but I do think Anderson will have his games here and there, his big plays here and there, and he's enough for a defense to be like, oh, in the back of their mind, to pay attention to him going down the field. You can't really leave him one-on-one unless you have an elite corner on the outside. You have to worry about his speed down the field. You have to worry about him burning you for a big play. So I think this is an awesome signing because Carolina hasn't really had a true number 3, a true vertical threat in a long time, or a good 3 receiver set, right? They've been dealing and trying to find guys to be that number 3, but they really haven't been able to find that number 3. And it's almost interesting that Carolina now finally has the best receiver group that they've ever had, and Cam Newton just left. Like, this is the best receiver group they've had, I would say, since like the Steve Smith, Musa Muhammad days of like the mid 2000s to early 2000s when they went to the Super Bowl with Jake Delhomme. Like, this is the best they've ever had at receiver. So it's awesome to see in Carolina, and obviously the NFC South is going to be loaded with weapons, loaded with offensive weapons, and loaded with offenses in general. And Carolina is going to need to keep up with these teams on the scoreboard. So this is a way of doing it, bringing in another weapon at wide receiver. I'd still like to see them add a tight end going forward. They still have Thomas there, but I don't quite know if Thomas is the answer to replace the big shoes of Greg Olsen going forward. The offensive line could still use some work, and we'll see what they do in the draft. But this is a team to me in Carolina that's probably not going to be competing for the NFC South crown, but a team that's looking to better themselves into the future and be a team that can maybe be good once Drew Brees and Tom Brady retire, and then all of a sudden Carolina's suited to be that team to take over the division and really make a run into the playoffs and have some success post Brady and Brees in the NFC South. But I like the move for Robbie Anderson. He's a good receiver. He's had good seasons. He's had good success. But like I said early in this offseason, I feel like Robbie Anderson was always going to be better off going elsewhere. The interesting thing is that he chose a team that has a quarterback that's not really a vertical type of guy, but I do think that he will be better utilized in this offense than with the Jets. Now, he might not be the true number 1 the way he was with the Jets, but I do think that his skills will be better utilized with smarter offensive systems and coaches there in Carolina than what he had with the Jets. And I also feel like, yes, some people say he had a decent connection with Sam Darnold, but I never really saw it on a consistent basis, and I never saw Darnold as the type of guy that would give Anderson the opportunities for him to make those big plays. And I'm hoping that Teddy Bridgewater can be that type of guy, can be that type of receiver. Taking a look at just some of his statistics, he's 6'3", he's 190, so he adds some height to the receiver group, and he adds, obviously, speed. He came out of college with a little bit of some personal issues, which kept him from really being a higher draft pick, and came into the NFL, had some success pretty much immediately in 2016 with 587 yards on 42 catches, 2 touchdowns. He broke out in 2017 with 941 yards and 7 touchdowns on 63 catches. And in the last 2 years with Darnold, he's caught somewhere around 750 yards for about 5 or 6 touchdowns in each season. He's played 16 games in every season but 2018. So he's been statistically pretty consistent, somewhere within the 700 to 900 range. He's probably not going to give you 1,000 yards or anything like that. But like I said, he's a big yards per reception type of guy where he's caught at least 14 yards per reception every year and 15 the last 2 seasons in a row. So Robbie Anderson to the Carolina Panthers adds a deep threat and speed dimension to this offensive attack with the Panthers and Bridgewater. The other move that is connected to this Teddy Bridgewater to Robbie Anderson move is Breshad Perriman signing with the New York Jets on a 1-year deal worth up to $8 million with $6 million guaranteed. Breshad Perriman had a really, really good year last year and put a lot of fantasy owners on notice at the end of the year. I remember he helped me win games last year in fantasy. He helped me win a fantasy championship last year. So I love Breshad Perriman now, but Perriman was a guy that I was super intrigued to see where he was going to go, how much he was going to go for. And honestly, he really didn't get as much as I expected. I thought that he would be offered a little bit more on the open market. Obviously, though, he's come with a lot of questions. He was drafted by the Ravens, didn't work out there as a first-round pick with a lot of potential. A lot of people expected a lot out of him in Baltimore. And he goes to Tampa Bay. He tries to make the most of it, and he ends up filling the shoes of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin at the end of the year and really exploding on the scene. I think part of that was that Jameis Winston is the type of quarterback that's just going to chuck the ball to you no matter what. And this is the interesting thing about this. Now, Perriman, I don't think that Darnold is that same type of quarterback. If Perriman is not wide open, is Darnold going to give him an opportunity to make plays the same way that Winston did? Winston just doesn't care. It's a big reason he threw 33 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. I mean, he's going to just throw it. And if you catch it, you catch it. If the other team catches it, the other team catches it. So Perriman and receivers like him are also going to succeed in their numbers because quarterbacks like that, whether it was Winston or Fitzpatrick or whoever, those type of guys are just going to give receivers opportunities and allow them to make plays. And I wanted Perriman to go to a place that had a better quarterback than Winston and a place that had a quarterback that was also similar to him in certain ways. So landing in New York is intriguing. I don't know if it's going to work out. I don't think it's an upgrade over Robbie Anderson. They're very similar receivers, but I think Anderson has a better track record and has had more success in the NFL. I believe they're around the same age. Anderson is 26 going on 27. Perriman is only played in the NFL for like a couple of seasons. He's also 26. He started in 2016. He really only had one decent year. Like his first year with Baltimore is a little, I would say, a little deceiving because he was given all the opportunity in the world to succeed because he was a first-round pick. So he had 499 yards and 3 touchdowns on 33 catches in that season. But really, it looks better than it was. Like, I remember a lot of drops that year, and I remember a lot of just inconsistency from him that season. Then he goes to Baltimore again in 2017. He's released after his second season, and he goes to Cleveland, and he has a little bit of success. In 10 games, he has 340 yards and 2 touchdowns, but not a ton. Then he goes to Tampa Bay, and then as the number 3 receiver, playing 14 games, he goes and becomes that number 1 and 2 at the end of the year. And that's where he really starts to put up his numbers: 645 yards, 6 touchdowns, 46 yards per game that year, and that's his best season yet. What I like about Perriman as a player is he has good speed. He could stretch the field. He can and has the capability of making really nice catches at times in traffic or one-on-one in jump ball scenarios. He has good height at 6'2". Really, from a prototype, like if you're building a receiver sort of thing, you're looking for a receiver like Perriman who has the size and speed combination. And I do think this is actually a good contract for him. 1 year, prove it deal. Let's see what he can do in our system. It's less money than Anderson got from Carolina, so it saves the Jets some money to use elsewhere. But would you have been better off with Robbie Anderson? To me, it never really clicked with Robbie Anderson as much as it should have with Adam Gase and Sam Darnold. So I actually don't mind moving on from Anderson if you're the Jets and signing someone like Perriman, who, yeah, is probably still a little raw as a route runner, but can still make the same sort of plays as Anderson did. And I would say more so than Anderson, he can make more contested catches. He might not have the same speed as Anderson, but he's close, and he has more ability to make those difficult catches over the top. So we'll see if that helps Darnold, and we'll see where he fits in the offense. But right now, he's looking like he's going to be the number 1 or number 2 on the outside with Crowder playing the slot. Jets fans, let me know what you think of this move and kind of the swap or the trade of Perriman for Robbie Anderson. Perriman leaves Tampa Bay. Didn't look like the Bucs were ever going to re-sign him. And now without Winston and with Brady, I don't think Perryman's the type of receiver that suits Tom Brady. So he finds a new home in New York with the Jets. I think it's a good contract because I expected him to get more, and he's still at an age where he can prove that he actually is a legitimate number 3 or number 2 in the NFL. So Jets, solid signing. We'll just have to see how it works out in New York. All right. We have a few more here that I do want to get to. Tyler Eifert, I want to get to that. Devin Funchess. Phillip Dorsett. Those are the moves I also want to get to. And I also have Peyton Barber written down here. All of those are kind of offensive names. So Andrew Gallant is in the chat. What's going on, man? He says, who are Dynasty trade targets? That's an interesting question. This is a fantasy question here. Ooh, that's a good one. Let me look at some teams. Okay, let's start in the AFC East, I guess. So, really, for the I don't know if there's anyone for the Bills, but I think if there is a player for the Bills, it might be a lower tier name would be like Dawson Knox at tight end. That would be someone on the lower tier of things. Other than that, on the Bills, there's really no one. I haven't really thought of this, so that's why I'm kind of going through the teams. New England, I think N'Keal Harry right now, his stock is probably pretty low. So to go out and get him would probably be solid because he's already shown that he has a good connection. Stidham has a good connection with N'Keal Harry, and I think N'Keal Harry is going to be a lot better in year 2, year 3. And I think, like I said, you could probably get him for pretty cheap. So if there's anyone on New England, N'Keal Harry would be the guy. As for the Jets, don't really see anyone on the Jets, to be honest. Yeah, don't really see anyone there. Dolphins, another tight end to throw out there would be Gesicki. I saw some good things from him last year. That makes me believe that maybe he's still very young, so he could be somebody going forward that turns into something. Ravens, I think everybody's probably like Marquise Brown should just only continue to get better. And Miles Boykin's interesting, I guess. Like a lower tier name as well. None of the running backs I feel like are probably worth trading for. Mark Andrews is going to remain a number 1 target there. The Browns, no. Steelers. Ooh, this is a good one. Steelers, I would look at Deontay Johnson of the Steelers as a good dynasty name because I think he's really going to break out this year. He was a 3rd-round pick last year. He had some success last year, but with Ben, he's really going to explode. Like I saw him at times last year where he looked better than Juju. So that's a name for you to go after. AFC South, I don't think there's really anyone on the Colts that I would go after. Jags, no. Titans, other than the obvious. Texans, no, they just have old guys. Like they don't really have anyone that's young. Broncos, Noah Fant looked really good last year. I think he'll get better. He's rookie season. Tight ends get better with age. Kansas City, Hardman is probably the one because Sammy Watkins is probably going to get traded within the next couple of years, I would think, or he's not going to be on the team any longer. And I actually could see Hardman taking over as the number 2. Chargers, no. Raiders, no, other than the obvious. Cowboys, no, I don't think so. Giants, Giants. No, not the Giants. Not yet. Maybe they draft somebody. Eagles, they have nobody on their team, but Dallas Goedert, I think, would be interesting as well. Redskins, no, other than Scary Terry's the only really one that's valuable. Bears, Lions, Hawkinson, I think, still going to be good. He just had a rookie season. Any like young tight end that you think is talented is good to add in fantasy or in Dynasty because they're probably going to be pretty cheap because people won't expect anything from them, but eventually they'll probably break out. Like tight ends don't usually break out till like year 3 or 4, maybe number 2, maybe year 2, but usually like year 3 or 4. Packers, no. Vikings, no. Atlanta, no. Panthers, kind of talked about all their guys already. Saints, no. Bucks are interesting. If you could get OJ Howard for cheap, that's not a bad idea. Arizona, no, they're pretty obvious. 49ers, 49ers, let's check them. 49ers, no, I think there's players that will be good for them in real life, but fantasy, I don't think that anybody really has high potential. Seahawks, Metcalf's going to be a stud for a long time. Rashad Penny is interesting. And the Rams, look out. They might trade one of their receivers. So if they do, that number 3 receiver on their team instantly becomes valuable. So definitely look out for that. And probably Darrell Henderson as well at this moment is intriguing. So those are all the guys that I look at as like dynasty options. Deshaun says NFL to their traditional schedule release on April 16th this year. Is it? Okay. I'm intrigued to see how many primetime games the Bucks get. Adam says, watch out for Dante Pettis this year. Bro, he was supposed to break out last year. Is this like a post-hype sleeper here? Graham says Dallas going to use Prescott one more year, then get Deshaun Watson. Ooh. Turtle says, be sure to join the BLV Discord to see Turtle's official mock draft 1.0. Yeah, guys, if you aren't already in the Discord, please get in there. I'm going to post the link right now. Join the Discord. You get the latest uploads that I post right away. You get to interact with me in the chat. Ask me any questions or just talk crap, whatever you want to do. Cam Newton should go to New England, says Graham. He should go to Cleveland, says Deshaun. Hey, Mitch, says Julian. What's up? Lori says right now he's more accurate than Tom. What? Who are you talking about? Dave says, if the Bengals make the playoffs, I will eat both shoes and my shirt. Scotty Miller, sleeper. I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that at all. Who is going to tank for Trevor? I don't know, but Jacksonville will be in there. Antonio Brown for president 2020, says Adam. Chauncey says, brother Nero, I knew you'd come. Robert says, Suh to the Bucks, and I will say that's the most likely place he goes. But I'm surprised that they haven't already re-signed him, which makes it less likely that he goes there. What did you think of the Phillip Dorsett signing? Okay, let's get into that. Let's get into Phillip. Phillip. Okay. The Seattle Seahawks have added another weapon for Russell Wilson at the wide receiver position, a receiver with speed, a receiver with experience, and a receiver with a winning pedigree. Phillip Dorsett has signed with the Seattle Seahawks, and I don't want to say I told you so, but I told you so. I predicted this one, Phillip Dorsett to the Seahawks. And the reason I predicted this is because I feel like it's a perfect match for Phillip Dorsett. So I'm happy for Phillip Dorsett, being a Patriots fan and liking Phillip Dorsett. I feel like this is a perfect spot for him to land. I think his capabilities, as I always saw in New England, were really better suited to a quarterback that can scramble around and make plays and create and buy a little extra time like Russell Wilson can. And Phillip Dorsett's really good in those scramble drill situations. And I do think that he's going to thrive as a potential number 3 within this offense. What he does add is a pretty good route runner, very, very, very reliable hands. I think he dropped like one pass in New England. He is not great at creating separation, which I feel like in the Seahawks offense, you don't really need to be able to do a lot of things. You need to be able to run a slant, a go, a post, and a scramble drill. There's a couple things you need to do with Dorsett, but he's really been utilized in New England as a field stretcher, as a downfield target, and as like the number 3 he's been best at. Whenever you push him to be like a number 2, that's too much. As a number 3, number 4, he's really good, and he's suited for that role. And I think he will develop in Seattle's system. He's still only going to be 27 this year. He was a former first-round pick for Indianapolis. Hasn't really reached that level, but I think what's awesome about Seattle is they have a very fast receiving core now. They have DK Metcalf, Phillip Dorsett, and Tyler Lockett. All 3 are blazing fast and will give corners issues in playing man-to-man coverage. And like I said, if Dorsett's going versus that number 3 or number 4 corner, he's going to beat that guy more often than not, and potentially for a big play. Wilson's one of the best downfield throwers in the league, and I think that's going to really suit Phillip Dorsett. Last year, he had a pretty decent season for New England, playing 14 games. He had 397 yards, 29 catches, and 5 touchdowns, which is a career high. He's made a lot of big catches in the playoffs as well, especially in 2018 with New England, where he made a couple in the AFC Championship and a couple in the divisional round, if I remember correctly, versus the Chargers and the Chiefs. 290 yards in his second season with New England, which was 2018, 32 catches. And in Indianapolis, his second season, he had 528 yards on 33 catches in 15 games, which is the most yards he's ever put up in his career. I think Dorsett is a really good guy, great for the locker room. Dorsett and Wilson are going to get along perfectly. He's really quiet, doesn't have a huge personality, but I think he's going to be a great complement to Metcalf and Lockett. And honestly, he's a guy that if Lockett gets hurt, he could probably do a lot of the things Lockett can do, just not as well. And I actually think, like I said, and like I predicted, he's a perfect scheme fit. He's a perfect match for Russell Wilson and what Russell Wilson does well. And I think that he'll actually end up having one of his best seasons ever in 2020. So Phillip Dorsett signs with the Seattle Seahawks. I like the move a lot, and I like it for both Dorsett and Seattle. What's up, Vash? Merrill says Antonio Brown to the Ravens. Don't tell me that actually happened. Mitch should make a community poll, and the question should be who the best mod is. All right, I want to throw this out there because guys on the Discord have been bugging me about this. Are you guys interested in playing, for you guys that have the PS4, are you guys interested in a BottomLineView Madden franchise league? Let me know. We're going to do, if we do it, we'll stream it on here occasionally, probably every week. I'll stream it, whoever I'm playing against. We'll do a fantasy draft. We'll have some fun, make some trades, and of course you'll see me beat Kevin Durkant because he'll be in my division and I'll just consistently be beating him. So, well, let me know if you guys are interested in that. I'll only do it if I have like at least 16 people join the league. Like if I have 16 people join the league, I'll do it. But let me know if you're interested in playing for one, and let me know if you're interested in watching it for two. So leave me a 1 and a I'll play if you're interested in playing, and leave me a 2 in the chat if you're just interested in watching it. Oh, you don't bother me. I just get the notifications. Don't worry about it. Thank you for the notifications, though. It does help me a little bit. But whatever. Adam says, yeah, Madden League. Do it. Singh says, Mitch, I'm interested, but I don't have a PS4. Bro, get it. No, but either way, you can watch. Turtle says 1 and 2. Ooh, Orlonzo's interested in playing. I'm gonna write you guys down if you're interested in playing. Adam's interested in playing. Alonzo. Kevin Durkant. I'm gonna put Turtle down because I'm gonna make him play. I know Bus. Julian. Okay, Julian, I'll put you down just in case. We got a few more signings to get to. But keep putting those 1s and 2s. Depending on what time. What do you mean what time? Vash says he likes Madden's 07 to 12. I don't really like the new Madden. They took all the cool fun out of it starting in 2013. Ron Burgundy is in the chat. He says, I'll play. My username is Shumfasa. Okay, I'll put Ron Burgundy down. Celebrity alert. Oh, well, you would have to coordinate it with your opponent, and we would do it through Discord probably. Turtle says Mitch and Durkant are easy work. I don't know who I would play as. I guess I'd play as the Pats, but I don't know. I'd let anyone choose. I don't care. If it's a fantasy draft, it doesn't matter. Deshaun says, forgot my PSN password. Bro, sign in. Hurry up. Get it done. Okay. Let's get to another signing, and guys, just keep filling in the chat if you're interested in joining. So the next signing is Devin Funchess. What are we more interested in right now? Devin Funchess or Tyler Eifert? Give me a Tyler Eifert or Devin Funchess. Perriman. Ricky says, hey, it's me, P. Diddy. Niall's a Pats fan too. Okay, we'll do Eifert. Niall said Eifert first, so we're going to do Eifert. Okay. All right. Pull up the stats. Tyler Eifert has found a new home after many seasons with the Cincinnati Bengals, many ups, many downs, many injury-riddled seasons. Tyler Eifert has found his way to the Jacksonville Jags and is reunited with Jay Gruden, who is also in Jacksonville, and I'm sure had a big-time influence on this move by Jacksonville. Tyler Eifert, they've been working diligently on signing this contract for quite a bit, and Doug Marrone has stated that he really wanted this tight end position to be filled by somebody at least competent. It's been a while since Jacksonville's had a competent tight end, and that's exactly what Tyler Eifert's going to give them. And I'm actually intrigued to see how Tyler Eifert looks this season, because he's going to be healthier this season than in any season I can remember, at least going into the season. He was actually reliable in terms of playing a large portion of the snaps last year and consistently being on the field. You know, this was his first season ever last year in 2019, playing 16 games. He didn't play as many snaps as a traditional number one tight end would play, but, you know, at least he played those 16 games. He went through the season unscathed throughout no injuries, right? So this year, I mean, if there's a year for him to ever get back to his true potential, which we saw glimpses of at times throughout the early portion of his career, it would be 2020. He's only going to be 30, which I don't think is unreasonable to say that Eifert can be at least, let's say, a top 15 tight end next year. And I feel like last year he had some success, 43 catches, 436 yards, 3 touchdowns. And this was coming off multiple seasons of injury, like 3 seasons in a row where his season was ended early. So for him to finally play that 16 games, it's going to give him a ton of confidence. He's going to go through an entire training camp without having to worry about being injured and going through the whole injury process and the rehab. And he's going to be able to work with his team. He knows the offense already. I feel like he's going to instantly become a favorite target of Minshew because he's tall, he's great in the red zone, and he's going to work the middle of the field. And even at times last year, I saw him succeed in the ways that he used to in going up and snagging balls in the end zone and making plays over the middle of the field. Cincinnati, he was a Pro Bowler in 2015. At 25 years old, he had 52 catches, 615 yards, and 13 touchdowns in 13 games. He had 13 touchdowns in 13 games that year, which was pretty outstanding, and that was his best season as a pro. As a rookie, he played 15 games, 39 catches, 445 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Those have been his 2 best statistical years. Last year was his 3rd best. He's just dealt with so many seasons. He's had so many seasons missed, basically entire career missed because of injury. So Tyler Eifert, you know, he's pretty much been known as this Band-Aid, known as this injury-prone player. But I think if there's a place for him to succeed, it would be in Jacksonville. Like I said, where he knows the offense, where he is going to be able to quickly gain a chemistry with this quarterback, and where there's not really anyone stopping him from becoming the favorite target of his quarterback. I mean, Jacksonville, DJ Chark is probably their true number 1. Westbrook's their number 2 receiver, but it's not like they have like a Julio or somebody of that stature that's going to get all the attention from their quarterback and as the go-to guy. So I feel like Eifert, what he does do is he fills a red zone need for this offense. He fills a middle of the field need, a 3rd down chain mover. He's probably not going to play a ton of snaps. Looking at his snap counts from last year, let's just take a look. They really used him just sparingly. He played 45% of snaps. So, like, he's going to be a guy that when he's on the field, he's a threat to catch the football, to make a play, but you're wanting to keep him as fresh as possible because he's gone through all these seasons of injury. Like, in 2015, he played 71% of the snaps. He's probably not going to play 71% of the snaps. I would think that he plays somewhere between 40 to 65% of the snaps. He's not going to play over that. And like I said, where he's going to be essential to this offense is in the red zone, where they definitely need a target in the red zone. I mean, they don't really have anybody that's tall that can go up and get it. And Minshew is a pretty accurate guy, if anything, and can definitely throw it up there and make a play. And Tyler Eifert still showed that in one-on-one catch situations, he can still succeed. Even if he's lost a little bit of his athletic prowess in terms of speed or quickness, he still has enough in the tank where he can function as that one-on-one jump ball guy, or just body a linebacker or a safety and catch it inside. He can do all those things. He's not an excellent blocker either, so that's part of the reason he doesn't play as many snaps, but he's a really good receiving tight end, and I think hopefully he can stay fresh, he can stay on the field, and we can see him succeed once again in the NFL. So Tyler Eifert to the Jags. I like the move. I like the contract. Yes, you got to be worried about him being injured, but with his potential and with his fit in this offense, which you know has already been there before, you can see really that thriving for Jacksonville. So this is actually one of the better moves of their offseason so far, in my opinion. Devin Funchess is coming up next. Let's check if anybody's in the chat. Give me the ones, give me the twos. The contract was I know it was 2 years. I don't know how much money it was. How do I think the Seahawks look? They look good. I don't know. They've lost a couple important players in the inside of their defensive line. Ron asks, where do you think that... Okay, I mean, New England using a tight end. Come on, hurry up. Hurry up. Did Green Bay sign a tight end? Because that could be a spot. Who else? Carolina, already brought up. Chicago signed Jimmy Graham. Who else? Redskins, maybe? Do Redskins have a tight end? Redskins. So, yeah, those teams make sense to me. Preston says he wants to play in a league, so I'll write him down. You guys have to respond, though. And if you do want to play in the league, I do recommend you get in the Discord chat, because that's probably where I'll be most interactive and easy to get a hold of. So if you do want to play in the Madden League, do get in that Discord chat. Run CMC says, Mitch, if you go to Temple, you can join the Panthers if you do. No, I don't, unfortunately. I'd love to join the Panthers, though. What NFL team has the largest fan base? I'm pretty sure it's still the Cowboys. Lions record prediction. I know it's early. 8-8 right now. How much money? I'll check there for you guys right now. I haven't seen any contract details. I've just seen 2 years. Mike Pennell re-signed with the Chiefs, which thought was going to happen. I'm watching these highlights. Damn. Nicholas says, what's your dream job? That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. Flora says, what's your Discord, mate? Here it is. It's the bottom line view, I believe. Is that what it's called? I don't know. But here's the link. You should be able to join by the link. If the link doesn't work, let me know. I'll get a new one. What's my record prediction for every team in the AFC East? Lucas says he thought my screen froze. I was watching Newton highlights from Super Bowl 50. Any word on Suh? No, nothing on Suh. Record prediction for every team in the AFC East right now. Let's go Bills, 11-5. Dolphins, 6-10. Jets, 5-11. And Patriots, 8-8. AFC South, Titans, 10-6. Jags, 4-12. Colts, 10-6. And Texans, 9-7. Just throwing those numbers out. What do I think the Dallas Cowboys record will be? Let's say they'll be close to the playoffs, if not in the playoffs. Let's say 11-5 right now. I gotta check their schedule and a lot of things, but let's say 11-5. NFC West predictions. Just give me all your predictions, eh? Cardinals, 8-8. 49ers, 12-4. Seahawks, also 12-4. And Rams, 6-10. Anyone else? Predict the Saints. I think somewhere around 11-5, 12-4. Somewhere like that. Maybe 13-3. Sean says Jags getting Cam Newton if there's a chance. Yes, there's a chance. Eagles will beat the boys twice next year, I predict. Eagles roster looks stacked. On defense, it does. Offensively, they still have, an entire receiving core to sign. But if they do get those receivers, you could be right. Their defense looks good. Was Super Bowl 50 the most rigged Super Bowl? I was watching highlights and it was just like constant drops by the Panthers receivers. NFC South. Okay, this is the last one, and then I'll get to the other signing. And then we'll finish it up. Who do I think's better? I think I give the slight edge to Wentz over Dak. NFC South, it's close. I think the Saints are the most reliable, and I know what they are. So I'll say that they finish first at 12-4. I'll say the Bucs finish 11-5, second place. Atlanta finishes 9-7, and Carolina finishes 5-11, 4-12, something like that. But I think the Bucs and the Saints are going to be battling for the division. Beth says, hey, this is Chris. How about the Jags? How do they do? Mahomes or Russell Wilson? I got to take Mahomes, but I love Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's my number 2. Beth says, this is Chris. How the Jags do? I don't think the Jags will do very well this year, unfortunately. Sorry to say. The Bucs have holes on their defense. Their defense played a lot better than you would think last year. And I'll get into why in my video. And they are, when I watched the tape today, I mean, they're a lot faster than I thought they were on defense. They're very aggressive, very fast, very active. I think their defense has a lot of potential. Would I like them to have better safeties? Maybe. But I think their corners are actually really underrated, and their front seven is really good. But their offense, the offensive line, because I watched them play the Niners, which was the first game of the year as well, and they held up really well. Mostly every time Winston was pressured, it was him like holding onto the ball, trying to make a play. And Winston basically lost him that game. He threw 2 pick sixes. But yeah, that was an interesting game to watch because that's the best D-line in football, and they went on to dominate basically every offensive line. So I was impressed in that game in particular with the offensive line. And defensively, they looked better than I thought in some of the games that I watched. But I'm going to continue to watch the games from last year for Tampa to do this video properly. The Seahawks receiving core is similar to the Chiefs. Yeah, you could say that. What's Up says, who do you think will be the most improved NFL team next season? I think the Bucs. Other than that, probably. Good question. The Bengals will be improved. The Colts will be improved. The Raiders, I think, will be improved, although they actually didn't do too bad last year. I think they were 7-9. Same as the Broncos. I think Broncos and Raiders will both be improved, but their records won't really show it, I don't think, because they were both 7-9. Chargers are improved as a roster, but they don't have a quarterback. Cardinals will be improved. They'll be one of the teams. So I would say, to limit it to a few teams, I would say Cardinals, Colts, Bengals, Bucks. Those would be like the 4 off the top of my head. Raiders as well, if I had to add a 5th. Team that drops in the most wins. That's a good question. That's a very good question. Patriots were what, 11-5 or 12-4? 12-4. So yeah, they'll probably drop like 4, probably anywhere from 4 to 5 games. So it probably will be the Patriots, but there's other teams as well. No, Ryan Tannehill does not deserve a Super Bowl. Deshaun says Saints might get past 10 wins next year. Yes, they will. Lucas says, do you think the Redskins or Giants have a better chance? I think the Giants. I think the Redskins... I don't know. I was going to say the Redskins have a better roster, but I don't even know if that's true. I think the Giants have a better chance. Who do I think will be coach of the year? That's a tough... I don't know. That's too far away, man. All right, let's do Devin Funchess. That'll be my last one. I don't need to do Barber. Okay. It's just a 1 year, I believe. Okay. The Green Bay Packers have added a receiver. Now, maybe not the high-profile name that we might have expected at the beginning of free agency, but they have added wide receiver Devin Funchess, formerly of the Panthers and the Colts. They've added him on a 1-year contract. He's a big-bodied receiver to play the perimeter, to be in the red zone, and to probably replace a little bit of what they had in Jimmy Graham. Now, I will say Jimmy Graham didn't offer much, but what he did add for the Packers was the height and the red zone ability, and that's what Devin Funchess will give them. What I'm thinking of in Devin Funchess is the potential of having a James Jones type of receiver for Aaron Rodgers once again. He had a great connection with James Jones. James Jones was that type of guy that, yeah, he wasn't going to separate from a corner. He was just too slow and not crisp of a route runner, but he had a huge body, had great hands, and could just find a way to get in a good enough spot for Aaron Rodgers to laser a football right into him. And a lot of times that was very difficult to defend. So I feel like if Devin Funchess can play up to that level and he can just come down with some of the accurate throws that Rodgers feeds him, he'll be a very underrated signing this offseason and actually give something to the Packers receiving group that I think will be a lot. Because, I mean, they have Adams, and last year they had a bunch of guys. I mean, it was Adams and a bunch of guys. And Devin Funchess at least has had some success in his career to the point where you could say, hey, you know what? Maybe this guy could actually develop with a really accurate, good quarterback who can put the football on him and give him some opportunities in some big one-on-one catch situations. Devin Funchess is 6'4", 225. He is only 25 years old, and he has had some success in his career. With Carolina at 23, he had 840 yards, 63 catches that season, and 8 touchdowns. He also, in 2018, had 549 yards on 44 receptions, and those seasons were with Cam Newton. I do believe that Aaron Rodgers can get the best out of Funchess. Like I said, he most comparably is the James Jones type of receiver that Rodgers hasn't had in quite some time. And what he can do well is he's physical. Off the line of scrimmage, he's difficult to press because he's such a big guy that he can just outbody you and get inside position on a corner. And not a lot of corners are able to defend receivers who are basically tight ends like Devin Funchess. He's not really explosive with the ball in his hands. He's more of a go up and get it type of receiver. He has had some catch situations where he's had the dropsies every now and again throughout his career, but if he can stay somewhat consistent, if he has confidence, and if Rodgers can create confidence and a connection between him and Funchess, I do believe this will be a great value signing for the Packers, which when I saw it, I was like, wow, this move actually makes a lot of sense because he's someone that can add value in the red zone, can add value to third down situations where Rodgers doesn't really have anyone open, but can just make a play in those go up and get it situations. And with Jimmy Graham leaving, I do believe he fits that need as well. So I actually would not be surprised if the Packers have Devin Funchess as their number 2 or number 3 receiver going into next season. He can play a little bit in the slot and he can play a little bit as that kind of like move tight end, but he's a receiver type of role. So I like Funchess going to the Packers. I haven't been the biggest fan of him in his career, but I think on certain teams like Green Bay with certain quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers, this signing actually makes a lot of sense, and I actually think upgrades the Packers offense in 2019 or in 2020, I should say. And I just want to see if he can live up to the potential that we saw with Carolina. I think he has the opportunity here, a better opportunity than just about anywhere in Green Bay with Rodgers. And I'm intrigued to see how LaFleur uses him inside of this offense and uses his size inside of this offense. I don't think the Packers are done adding tight ends, adding receivers to complement Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and Aaron Jones within this offense. But I think Funchess is a guy that can play a specific role and is not going to cost a lot of money. So I like this move quite a bit if I'm a Packers fan. All right, there's Devin Funchess, the last signing of this video. Do you think the Browns will get past 8 wins? That's a good question. I think they'll be just around 8 to 10. I want to say 7 to 10 wins. They'll be somewhere in there. They'll be better than last year. Sean says, can't wait for the NFL season, Mitch. I cannot wait. Hopefully it happens. Do a post free agency NFL tier maker. Maybe I will. All right, guys. So hopefully you're in the Discord. If you're not, please join. Follow me on Twitter, at Mitch Milani, as it says below, at Mitch Milani, MITCHMILANI. Follow me on Twitter for the latest updates, latest analysis on NFL signings. You can follow me there. Let's get this Discord chat. I'll leave the Discord in the chat one more time. Especially if you want to be in the Madden League, join the Discord. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, again, Gronk, spike the like button. And if you're watching me for the first time, subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL throughout the entire offseason. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Peace.